First is Quran has something he calls general empirical attitude. Okay, and by this we mean observation of nature or observation in general, emphasis on observation. But as Allama Iqbal himself says, that observation is um, thrown upon as a sign of something else. Number two, he's saying it engendered in its followers a feeling of reverence for the actual, feeling of and by actual, I guess he means physical reality, laws of nature, etc. Now, first thing to note is, even if Quran emphasizes observations, from this it doesn't follow that it actually engendered a feeling of reverence for the actual and its followers, because just the possibility of connection doesn't mean the actuality of a occurrence. So we need more than that here. On the other hand, feeling of reverence for the actual exists among pagans more than anyone else. So that was something already there. So Quran could not have just come to engender that feeling which was already there. And thirdly, Quran again and again emphasizes the fleeting nature of this reality, existing reality. So that doesn't gel with the reverence of the actual. Now, by the reverence of the actual we mean that it's a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is his trust, and as his creation, as his trust, that's something which we should take into account. So that's fair enough, but that doesn't mean we have any reverence of the actual beyond that. And if by reverence of the actual we mean that Islam emphasizes and commands that we take into account cause and effect, because the whole way of life is based on taking into account cause and effect. But it also teaches us not to rely on cause and effects. So that's a double attitude. So that's these two things. And from this, Allama Iqbal draws the conclusion that it made them the founders of modern science. Now, even if you accept the first two premises, that the Quran inculcated a general empirical attitude, and number two, feeling of reverence for the actual, even then, it is a non sequitur, as we say in logic, to claim that they are founders of modern science. It doesn't follow from the first two necessarily, the third one, because you will need to prove the first two, and also will need to prove that it actually led to the third, and also prove that the third is actually empirically sound as well. And obviously, Muslims are not founders of modern science by any stretch of mind. In fact, I mean, if I have to pick up a religion, that would be Catholicism, which led to the foundation of modern science, in the sense that without Catholic institutions and its system of learning, it was impossible that in Europe we would have a modern science. But that doesn't follow from Catholicism or its essence. It's what you call the side effect of the Catholic civilization of the Middle Ages. And in order to happen, Catholicism itself had to be weakened as well. So it's not any praise for Catholicism to say that it contributed to modern science, as far as I'm concerned. But more than that, I think it's a great misunderstanding that science was the consequence of some sort of empirical attitude which didn't existed before, or observation, etc. Because empirical attitude and observation is with human since the dawn of our history, and those were the main tools for our life and survival. So if science was actually sufficiently based on empirical attitude and observation, it would have been emerged in pagan cultures, for example, in ancient Greece or other pagan cultures, in Egypt or in Arabia, But science, despite all this claim that it's based on observation and empirical attitude, science requires, apart from observation and empirical attitude, which any human pursuit for knowledge presupposes, science actually is based on very counterintuitive and non-observational culture and counterfactual culture. And without emergence of this counterintuitive, counterfactual, counter-observational rationality or way of thinking, science will never have emerged. Because we never actually observe law of gravity as described in science, or law of motions as described in science. You have to actually abstract from the existing realities. Abstraction is very important, because abstraction is part and parcel of counterfactuality. You have to abstract from actual reality in order to develop science and scientific laws. And in fact, as against what Allama Iqbal claims, science actually thrives on non-reverence of the actuality. Because without non-reverence of the actual, science would not have developed. So these are the observations at this point, but we will talk about these things as we go along.